Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is our very first Allergy Insights 360 webinar series. This is presented by CFAAR, the Center for Food Allergy and Asthma Research at Northwestern and Lurie Children's. I'm Ruchi Gupta, I'm the director of CFAAR, and our first webinar is on navigating preschool with food allergies. So CFAAR now is launching this new webinar series, Allergy Insight 360. And the goal of this series is to explore life with food allergies and asthma, offering 360 degrees of perspective to help people navigate this space. Now, in CFAAR, we conduct research, but research is no good unless it's tied to actual life experiences. So that is what we aim to do. We will present to you the latest and greatest research on the topic, and then we will talk to real people in the field and get their perspectives on how this works in the real world. So our first webinar, Navigating Preschool with Food Allergies, includes perspectives from parent, preschool director, and early childhood expert on what to think about and look for when searching for a preschool that puts a priority on safety and inclusion for children with food allergies and asthma. I'm so excited today to welcome our panelists. First up is Leela Williams. She is our parent perspective, and Leela Williams is the director and co-owner of Future Leaders Learning Center in Oak Park in Chicago, and been there since 2016. She has been an early childhood educator for over 20 years and is the proud mother of two boys, age 21 and age 7. During her career, she's dedicated herself to provide high quality care and education to young children. Additionally, she has served many children with severe food allergies and asthma. She is also a mother to a child who has both food allergies and asthma. So she has the perspective of a mother, a teacher, and a child care owner. Therefore, one of her ongoing goals is to keep herself and others educated about keeping children with food allergies safe. Our next panelist is Amy Cardin. She is the director of First United Nursery School, also in Oak Park, Chicago. Amy has been working with young children since 2005. She's a graduate of the University of Illinois with a bachelor's degree in business administration and earned her master's degree from Dominican University in early childhood education. She's taught children from ages 2 to 6 and is now the director of First United Nursery School in Oak Park. Amy enjoys presenting at parent workshops and professional conferences, including the National Association of Education for Young Children, the NACE Annual Conference in 2019. And next up, our panelist and part of CFAAR team is Sarah Velika. Sarah is an early childhood educator, and she's part of our CFAAR team. Now, Sarah has over 25 years of experience working with young children and their families, and provides early childhood programming as well as teaching in higher education and professional development settings. She earned her master's degree in child development from the Erickson Institute in Chicago and has over a decade of experience preventing and managing life-threatening food allergies for one of her own children. Now, Sarah works with us closely in CFAAR to coordinate early childhood food allergy education initiative that we are also working on with FAAR, which is a national food allergy organization. All right, so enough of me talking. We're going to get on to our panelists. I'm going to start with the research, and the research will be presented by Sarah.
Hi, everyone. In 2018, we surveyed parents of young children and early childhood providers across the state of Illinois to understand the food allergy education needs. Our findings were that the majority of providers work with children with food allergies, but there's a need for more education on management. And as a result, we created 3 videos to address the food allergy education needs. A little bit about the data. What we learned in the parent survey was that 75% who completed the survey were parents of children without food allergy. They communicated that they know food allergies are real and serious, and 75% said that their child has a friend with a food allergy. Parents of children without food allergies want food allergy knowledge also. They are willing to watch videos and learn.
Now, Sarah, on this, I think this is so fascinating because often you do hear that parents don't really understand, and we worry that they may not be interested. But what's so surprising about this is that they do want the information and they do want the knowledge to help support their friends who have kids with food allergy, since 3 out of 4 of them said their child has a friend with food allergy, even though their children do not.
Correct. That was a surprise. We expected more of the parents with food allergy to take the survey. So I think this is a data to really pay attention to. And also, every food allergy policy impacts every child, whether they have food allergy or not. So it's an important group to educate. When we surveyed the early childhood professionals, we learned this information. We learned that 77% of early childhood professionals, that could be aides, preschool teachers, interventionists, anyone who works with children under the age of 6. And we learned that 77% work with one or more children with a food allergy. We also learned that 69% were formally trained in food allergies. However, 38% believe they were unprepared to administer epinephrine, even though they were trained. Further, 62% were unfamiliar with the emergency action plan related terms, such as body system, more than one system, a single system.
And I think this speaks to, 3 out of 4 again have a child in their child care center with food allergies. But what was also very interesting about that slide, if you could go back to it, is that although they've been trained, they are admitting that they don't really, they've been trained, but it doesn't make you feel comfortable, right? Like in epinephrine, we know a lot of people feel uncomfortable giving epinephrine because it's an injection. So it's nice that they're telling us this. And then I also, points to the fact that some of our terms are confusing. And this was really important information for us to know.
Further, we learned that 1 in 4 providers witnessed an allergic reaction at the early childhood center. More than 25% were unfamiliar with the emergency action plan. Less than half were comfortable identifying allergy-friendly food labels, and 47% wanted to know how to talk with children about food allergies.
Amy and Leela, from your experience in your centers, do these numbers seem accurate to you? That only more than 1 in 4 are not familiar with an emergency action plan, or the terms are confusing, or they're not comfortable using epinephrine?
It does seem accurate to me.
I think people are maybe more familiar with the emergency action plan, but the terms that you mentioned, mild symptoms, more than one body system, can be kind of confusing, and especially when a reaction is happening, it would be taxing to interpret all of that.
Okay, good. Validates our research there, Sarah. Keep going, sorry.
Okay, so with that information, we created a video for early childhood professionals, and I'd like to show that to you now.
Food allergies are common in childcare centers. We surveyed early childhood professionals and learned that 77% work with 1 or more children with a food allergy. Food allergy is a medical condition impacting 1 in 13 children, and it can be life-threatening.
The goal is to prevent an allergic reaction, and the only way to do this is by staying away from the allergen. So, let's see if you're ready. Start with children and adults getting in the habit of washing hands, as well as staff wiping down tables, chairs, and playground equipment. Prepare the environment by removing allergens.
On food labels, the allergens can be listed in the ingredients section, or it may be clearly listed in bold under the word contains. It is possible that even if the item doesn't contain the allergen, it could be processed in a facility that contains the allergen. Only the top 8 major food allergens are required by law to be clearly listed on labels. These include peanut, tree nuts, milk, egg, wheat, soy, shellfish, and finfish. Sesame may be added to that list. Other allergens must be carefully looked for in the label. Children with diagnosed allergies should have an emergency action plan from their doctor. It is specific to each child, telling you what the child is allergic to and explains how you should manage the reaction if it should occur. Administrators and directors should request the emergency action plan from the parents and share it with all staff that interact with children throughout the day. Also, discuss precautions needed with parents and understand any previous reactions.
Know where medicine is kept. Take it with you when you go outside and on field trips. You're not feeling very good, are you?
If the child feels faint, passes out, has a racing pulse or weak pulse, that's the cardiovascular body system reacting. Does their voice sound hoarse or different somehow? An answer is not necessary, but if the child is verbal, listen to the words they say. If the child is holding their throat, feeling tightness in the throat, expresses difficulty swallowing, feels tightness in their chest or wheezing, or if it's hard for the child to breathe, that's the respiratory system reacting. Do you see hives or are they scratching? If the child develops hives, redness, swelling, or itching, the integumentary system, which includes the skin, is reacting. If the child vomits or feels stomach pain, that's the gastric system reacting. If two systems are reacting, or if the child is having trouble breathing or fainting, this is a severe reaction known as anaphylaxis. The severity and progression of an allergic reaction is unpredictable. In that moment, we don't know if it will be mild or severe. We must compare the symptoms we observe with the child's emergency action plan to decide if epinephrine should be administered. Anytime the child has multiple symptoms or severe symptoms, administer epinephrine and call 911. Be prepared to give a second dose of epinephrine if symptoms do not get better. If you have any doubt, it is okay to use epinephrine.
Here's what we're gonna do, okay? You're gonna be okay, but your body is getting very sick from something that you ate. And we need to give you medicine to make your body feel better, okay? Then we'll go to the hospital and the doctors will make sure you're better. And your parents will meet us there, okay?
Remove the epinephrine autoinjector from the case, then remove the safety cap. Secure the child. Press into the lateral thigh and count for 3 seconds before removing the autoinjector. After removing, gently massage the child's leg for about 10 seconds and comfort the child until the ambulance arrives. Food allergies are on the rise, and it's a medical condition that can cause a severe, life-threatening reaction. Prepare the environment. Number 1, look at food labels. Never assume. 2, look at the child's emergency action plan. Each child has their own. And 3, look at the child. The body will send signs and symptoms. Ask yourself, am I ready? Children under 6 depend on you to be ready.
If you stop, look, and ask, and it's okay, go and eat the food. If you stop, look, and ask, and it's not okay, go find an alternative food. If there was an accidental ingestion, go. Decide whether to administer epinephrine and go call 911. You can be a positive food allergy role model for all the children by singing a song at the table when food is on their mind. We want them to stop before they eat, look at the food, ask an adult if it's okay, and go if the adult says so. Adding a hand sign with each word allows the child to hear and see the message.
Stop, look, ask and go, ask and go. Stop, look, ask and go, ask and go. Check your food and look before you eat. Ask and go, and go, and go, and go, and go.
Prepare the environment. Remove allergens. Look at the food labels. Never assume. Look at the child's emergency action plan. Look at the child. The body will send signs and symptoms. If there was an accidental ingestion, compare the symptoms you observe with the child's emergency action plan to decide if epinephrine should be administered and call 911. So as we continue our this conversation with our panelists, I think it's just important to remember the preschool years we're talking about ages 3, 4, and 5, and that these are some of the emerging skills and goals of these years. So I'll turn it back to Dr. Gupta and the conversation.
Thank you, Sarah. That was excellent, and I hope that video helped. There are also 2 other videos we've developed: the song for the kids, and also a conversation between parents with food allergy and without food allergy, to help parents in early childcare settings better understand what food allergy is, and answer the right questions and how to protect all children in that center. So now we'd love to hear from the real people experiencing this every day of their lives. And I'll start with you, Leela. What do you think, as you have a child with food allergies and asthma, what are some of the most important factors that people should consider and that you considered in your decision when you were choosing a preschool for your child?
Great question. First and foremost, I know everyone looks into education first, but for me, education was a primary. But anytime you have a child with food allergies, you have to go a little bit above and beyond in doing your research to keep that child safe. Safe environment, education. But when you got children with health concerns, you have to go above and beyond. So for me, finding a school that had a nurse on site and that had policy and procedures in place were very vital to me to ensure that my child would be safe should he encounter a moment where he would have come in contact with things that he could not eat that were unhealthy for him. Having a chain of command in place was also very vital for me, and knowing where the medication was kept in place was also important.
That's excellent. And then Amy, for you as a director of a child care center, what do you agree with those 3? Are there any other additional things that you think are really important that parents look for in a center when they have kids with food allergies?
I think what Leela said is very important, and especially as you're thinking about the what ifs. The other thing is I would also want to make sure the staff have good training to make sure that they, that stat where you said that the staff had been trained, but they weren't that comfortable giving the epinephrine.
Yeah.
And so just, I know here we train every other year and we do CPR, and EpiPen training is always a part of that, which is great. And so that multiple exposures to training really boosts our confidence with being willing to do that.
Yeah. And I think, the next question I was going to ask you, Amy, is just that. What are the most challenging aspects? And I'm guessing epinephrine and teaching people how to use it and when to use it sounds like maybe one. But yeah, what are some of those challenging aspects for, centers? Because we look at it from the parents, right? Because it is important for parents to make sure they are getting a center that is, very, on top of this. But from a center's perspective, what's challenging, and, how have food allergies kind of impacted how you operate your center?
Well, we do, like I said, training is a big piece of it. But also, I mean, we are feeding children, which is a worry. So we do have to kind of manage our worry with that a little bit. Another thing that goes into our operation here is just the communication. So communication with parents obviously is a huge, huge part, but also within the classroom, and then sort of passively in the classroom. So we make sure that where the EpiPen is kept or any allergy medication is kept is marked with a gigantic red cross, that if someone has an allergy, that is posted, so that if a sub or somebody who's not familiar, a parent comes in, something like that, that is very clear and everybody knows, oh wait, there's an allergy in here, so that prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So those are things, and knowing the allergy action plan, getting it at the beginning of the year, just so that you always have that in the back of your mind. And then I would say the habit of reading labels. So one of the things, Sarah, you said in the slides that you presented is don't assume, right? So if something has always been nut free, but if they change their processing or whatever, then all of a sudden it's got a tiny flag on it. If you haven't seen it, if you miss it, it's disastrous. So just in that habit of reading labels every single time.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I couldn't emphasize that more. That is very true. And then Leela, from when you decided on a center, and we're not gonna, go into which one or what, but are there anything, like, do you feel like you had any issues with it? Would you do anything differently? When do you know or have that feeling that it's right? Another question on top of that is also, did you take in your emergency action plan? Who do you talk to about it? Sorry, that's a lot of questions.
It's good. And I have answers for them. So those are very great questions. When I enrolled my child into the school, I did introduce myself to the nurse, the school nurse, because you have to provide them with the action plan, as well as the EpiPen and the asthma pump, and get familiar with them, and also allow your child to get comfortable with them. So I wanted my child to be comfortable with, this is a person that can help you. Yeah. Never be afraid. If you don't feel well, go to this person, introducing them to the teachers. I even took it above and beyond, and I introduced myself to the cafeteria, the people that serve the food, because I wanted to know if I have a child with, my child has, he's allergic to citrus. So if you are providing oranges that day, what would be a substitution? And the substitution that they gave me was pineapple juice, or a juice substitute. And I'm like, well, that's still a citrus product. So just knowing that, and people don't know, because I had to learn too, as a parent, like certain products, shampoos and different things like that, I couldn't buy if they had those items in it, because it would irritate the skin and make it red. And just, so I didn't feel anyway. It's about them not knowing, because I didn't know either. But my goal was to educate, like, this is my child, this is who he is, this is the things that he's allergic to, making them aware and making him feel comfortable, and educating him as well. If you've been served something, let them know. Unfortunately, I can't have that. I would love to taste it, because that's his thing. I would love to know what it tastes like, but I can't have that because it doesn't make me feel well. So he's very expressive with that. So my blessing is in this with enrollment is that I had a child that knew his allergies and could express to them that I can't have that. But it is very good to go and see what they know and see if anybody has had a food allergy certification. I took mine a few years ago. I didn't even know that was a thing. So now I can go to the schools and ask, does anybody have the food allergy certification? Because it is very vital.
That is so great, Leela. I mean, two really important, you made so many great points there, but I want to point out two that I really loved. One is how you talk to the child care center, where you were very kind. You were explaining that it's okay if you don't know, you don't have to, because I didn't even know. And I probably wouldn't know any of this if I didn't have to do it for my child. And I think that connection, because it has to be a team, right? This is a team, and I will give you any information. They should feel very comfortable asking you questions, even if they're not, they're simple questions, right? Like, you shouldn't feel like, and so I love your approach to that. I think that is definitely one of the keys to really building that relationship. And the other big thing I think I loved that you said, and I just want to point this out because this is going back to research, which is what we do, is that your child with food allergy is very expressive. And we asked kids, these were teenagers now, who have food allergies. We always talk about how hard it is on them and all the fear and anxiety and other things it may cause. But we asked them, what are the positive things that may have come out of you having a food allergy? And one of the top things they said is they can advocate for themselves. So they do become expressive. We should really help our children. And, you know, one of my good friends, Denise Bunning, would always give me this example of role playing, right? And getting your kids to talk. And, you know, she had older children with food allergies. My daughter, who has food allergies, was quite a bit younger. And how do you get them to advocate for themselves, right? And be able to say those things without fear. And a really good way is role playing. So you put them in scenarios and you ask them questions and you have them respond to you. And your son sounds like he's on his way to becoming a great advocate, and he already is. And then Amy, I just want to get your take on that too, as you know, on the other side, which is really, really kind of neat. Like, that's the approach that Leela mentioned, that you know you respond to, and that works well with your team. And you know, any suggestions you have?
I think what Leela said was fantastic. So she came in and talked to everybody who's going to be responsible for taking care of her son and responsible for giving him things to eat, letting them know what the allergens are and what's connected to that. Because like you said, Leela, pineapple is not a good substitute if it's citrus. And so, but some stuff is tricky, like you said, where it shows up in different ways, and if it's a milk allergy, and then also just what to, you know, getting the allergy plan or the action plan and having that open communication where a teacher could say, what do I do when this happens? And what should I know that's tricky that maybe I might not have thought of? And one of the things that we sort of keep in mind are those special days. So if you have a birthday, if it's some sort of a holiday, or somebody brings in a special snack. And so those are also those kinds of things that just open communication with the parent, where you could say, oh, today is St. Patrick's Day and we're going to do this. What should we be on the lookout for? I think you will never go awry with that clear communication with the parent.
Yeah, no, that's great. That is such good advice. And I want to bring it back to, you know, when we're talking about food allergies, a lot of times people talk about nuts, right? I think there's so much awareness on peanut. And just to, you know, go back to research, you know, our study where we looked at, you know, what are the top allergens, found that there are 9 that are the most common. And yes, peanuts tops that list, but there's also, especially in young children, some of the more common ones are egg and milk. And so peanut, tree nuts, egg, milk, shellfish, finfish, which we don't see as much, maybe because they're not trying it at that young age. But we do see soy, wheat, and sesame. You know, those are the top 9. So peanuts, tree nuts, milk and egg, shellfish, finfish, soy, wheat, and sesame. So those, we call those the top 9. You can be allergic to anything. And that's what's so hard for people, because I think a lot of times people really hold on to this, okay, nuts, I got it. I understand nuts. But that's also very challenging for childcare centers, right? Because any food a child could be allergic to. So I'm just curious, Amy, how you handle that, and what have you seen in your own experience in your center?
I've seen allergies to a lot of things. I think so. Of course, the ones that you mentioned. I also we had a year where we had 5 of 18 children who had food allergies, and they, you know, several were peanut and tree nut. One was wheat, one was milk, one was rice, which was super tricky because the rice substitutes and the wheat substitutes are sort of counter, you know, like if it's okay for wheat, it's not okay for rice. And so we also have had, we have a child this year who's allergic to bananas. We've had raspberries, strawberries, chickpeas. So we've had a number of different things, and it just, we treat all the allergies the same, right? If someone's allergic, they're allergic, and you just, so you do the same things, which is you read the labels, you note where the emergency supplies are, and you make sure that it's not sneaking into something that you're forgetting about.
Great. No, that is so challenging, and I can imagine, especially, because these young children, they're wanting to share food and touch each other, and their hands are always in their face, some orifice. So yeah, it can definitely, get hard. And Leela, on that point, did you ever experience anything that was difficult, or any episodes for your son when he's at his childcare center?
No, actually, with me being transparent
Yeah.
and making them aware of the situation, that kind of avoided any incidents. When you go, you express yourself and you tell them, these are my concerns. How can we work together collectively? You kind of avoid those issues. So I can say that my son's school has been pretty good with managing his allergies, his food allergies.
That's wonderful. That's so nice to hear, Leela. And you're right. When you preempt it with giving them all the tools they need and have that very open communication, that really leads to the best outcomes. Great. And Sarah, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation. I know you're probably itching to say so much with all your experience. So anything on all of those topics that you want to add to?
Yeah, I would just add that at this age, it's important just to remember that not all children are verbal and as verbal. So it's wonderful when they are, but when they aren't, I think that it's good for the adults to remember we have other tools and we can communicate with our hands. So in that message is stop, look, ask, go. And that's helpful. And it gives children who have a harder time articulating, they can at least give a signal, a hand signal. So I would just add that's an important thing to remember with this population.
Amy, so can you describe to us, for all the parents in the audience, some do's and don'ts? I think Leela's told us a lot of do's, right? Like be kind, communicate everything. Have you seen any don'ts or, any other advice that makes it easier for you to help families?
I would say the main thing is to be clear, as Leela showed us was a great example of how to do that. To keep us updated. Sometimes children's allergies change or new allergies appear. So keep us aware of any changes that have happened. The other thing is at our school, we had a parent with a child with severe food allergies who was on the board and totally revamped our snack list. So took a look at the snack list and said, sure, you could have pretzels, say, but this brand of pretzels is not manufactured on peanut, so there's not going to be that cross-contamination. And so then that way we just sort of added one more layer of safety for us. So getting involved, communicating with teachers, and as your children grow, like what Sarah said, not every young child is verbal, but as they grow and get older, to help them know what to say when they're not sure about a food, and what to say if they don't feel good. Like Sarah showed in the video, your body looks like you don't feel well. And so just becoming that advocate for themselves, because you want them to tell you if there's something going on. We're pretty on it, but definitely if they're able to communicate with us, we want that as well. That's
right. Absolutely. And, that takes me back to the research, which I always try to insert every time I can. So what's so important is we found that in young children, their symptoms in very young children, it's more skin and vomiting. That's very common, and especially under 2. As they start to get older, you start to see more respiratory, and especially like Leela's son, who also has asthma. A lot of kids, especially with uncontrolled asthma, but kids with asthma, if they even get a trigger of their food, right? Like if they eat their food allergen, they will also have symptoms that are consistent with their asthma. So you'll see more respiratory trouble, breathing, tightening, And this is hard, as Sarah said, in young children to really identify. The hardest thing about food allergies for us is we haven't been able to determine, what will happen, right? If you get hives, will you always get hives? But it depends on so many things. It depends on the quantity of the food you ate. Did you eat just a tiny, tiny amount or quite a bit? It depends on other things, like is your body already fighting a viral infection? So it's already immune compromised a little bit. There's a lot of factors. So we always say you can have a mild reaction and then potentially a severe reaction. So you always have to be on the lookout. And I think to that point, since it can impact any body system, that's when it becomes really hard for the young child to know what's going on, and also for the child care professional, right? Because how do you identify when it could be just about anything, So I think those are challenging things to keep open communication about, and know that whenever you're in doubt at all, use that epinephrine, and really getting people comfortable with that. Okay, all right, we're getting close to the end, but I did want to ask each of you any closing words. There's parents are listening to this, they're nervous and really would love to make sure that this is the hardest time when their child may not be verbal or be able to communicate, and you're really trusting your child to that center or that school. And so any last words of advice? Leela, we can start with you.
I would advise parents to always be mindful that teachers get busy too. Me being on both sides, being a parent as well as a director, we get busy. So when you know that there's a field trip coming up, send those teachers reminders. Hey, I'm not being a bug. However, remember to take Joey's asthma pump. Remember to take Joey's EpiPen with you. We need those reminders too, because you're dealing with 20 children, and just as an advocate and a voice for your child, it's great to, when a field trip or a playground walk is coming up, to send us those reminders. Although we'll do our best to make sure that we have that in order, it's always good for a reminder, because the day can get stressful or overwhelming or unpredictable.
That is such great advice, Leela. And I like how you do it. I just love the way you bring it up. I don't mean to be a bug, because then you're not like being, kind of asking for things, or feeling, like getting the other person feeling like, oh, I already know this, why are you, so that is such good advice. Amy?
I think that communication is great. And throughout the time that a parent is working with a teacher, that relationship builds. And so if Leela called me and said, I know you're going on a field trip, don't forget the inhaler, I'd be like, right, thank you. Even though I probably had a note in my pocket, I wrote it in giant thing on the board on the way out the door. And, I told my assistant all of those things, but just more eyes are better. So I think that communication and that relationship would be the things that I would emphasize the most.
Great. And Sarah, I would love your thoughts and maybe even some more education, because I talked about symptoms, but I know in your mind you're probably like, that's not, let me tell you what little kids say. So
well, I would say I agree with Leela and Amy and all the things that have been said. I feel that it's important to just be kind and realize that parents, it's important to realize, and I'm a parent of a child with food allergies as well, that people don't know what you know, and as much as you know, and they haven't spent that much time on thinking about this topic. So make it as easy as possible for them. If you can bring the snack, bring it for all of them if you can, or just steer like the board member who like looked at the list of what's happening. Those things are very important, and it's just helpful to remember that, like Leela and Amy are good examples. Like your child is not the only child they are caring for, so they are juggling a lot, and these are little children that are demanding, and some days more than others. So
that is wonderful. And for everyone watching, we have a list of resources for you. So we do have additional things you can share with the school, with your child care center, with other parents, to help educate them. We didn't expect 3/4 of the parents who were responding to be parents who didn't even have kids with food allergies. So they do want to know, they do want to be there, they do want to support children with food allergies. We just have to give them the tools. So that's great. Thank you all so much. This has been absolutely incredible. Again, the resources will be shared along with this video, and always feel free to reach out to us at CFAAR if we can help you, help your family and help your life and help your children in any other way. So thank you so much. Thank you, our panelists, Amy, Leela, Sarah, amazing, incredible. And hope to continue this conversation at another time. But look out for our next webinar, which will be coming soon. And again, thank you for being here.